Good morning, Donald Trump. I hate to break it to you, but it's not a nightmare. That's right. In this breaking story, the Supreme Court just wrecked Donald Trump's morning with the worst Christmas gift. How's it going, everybody? Hunter Avalone here with Occupy Democrats. Welcome back to another video. Don't forget to click that subscribe button if you're desperate for Donald Trump to be gone from the White House. And one thing's for certain about desperation, Donald Trump is desperate for love. And this largely explains his unhinged behavior.
He is constantly trying to fill a void that cannot be filled. And the reason is actually pretty simple. Even though Donald was the preferred child of my grandfather, and by preferred, I mean most useful to him in advancing his own agenda, my grandfather and my grandmother rendered Donald unlovable. The thing he most desperately wants in his life is to be loved. He never has been sufficiently. He never will be. That is an impossible thing for him to achieve. So everything else, the money, the power, putting his name on everything, that is all in service to filling a black hole that is unfillable. And I think if we can take a step back and detach ourselves from the horrors this man has committed and continues to commit, that is a tragedy to say about another human being. And the truth of the matter is that because of that, his needs will never be met, and he can never grapple with them in a real way because he's just a terrified little boy who cannot face the truth about himself. All of us are suffering. He doesn't have any conscious awareness of that, but he certainly understands it on a deep unconscious level.
And still, Trump is so out of control, even British media is taking notice.
If it emerges that it's true that in some way, not necessarily Donald Trump himself, but people working on his behalf are attempting to cover up his involvement here, I mean, what are the possible consequences of that?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's an interesting debate. I think the Epstein files are probably the most Nixonian case in the Trump presidency. And that's unusual because actually, in almost every other issue, Trump is just very open and blatant about everything he does. So, for example, he will accept a $400 million jet from Qatar. It's the kind of thing that a past president would maybe have tried to conceal that, and a journalist would have spent a year digging away, and it would have gone on a front page, and it would have been seen as a big scandal. Whereas Trump is just very brazen and open, and somehow that seems to often reduce the scandalous impact, and that's why the Epstein files have been striking. He has behaved much more like a traditional politician with something to hide.
But now Trump's morning just went sideways as the Supreme Court gave him the worst Christmas gift. Take a look at this. The Supreme Court just handed Donald Trump a brutal Christmas gift, and it is not the one he wanted. In a major setback, the court refused to let Trump deploy National Guard troops into the Chicago area as part of his immigration crackdown, keeping a lower court order in place that blocks the move entirely for now. And here is the key line from the court itself. The government failed to identify any legal authority that would allow the military to execute the law in Illinois. In other words, Trump tried to send troops into a major American city, and even this conservative Supreme Court said no. The ruling comes after Trump claimed he needed the Guard to respond to so-called violent resistance, but judges found no evidence of rebellion, no emergency, and no justification for militarizing the streets. Only 3 justices dissented, while the majority, including Trump appointees, refused to back him. Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker called it a win for democracy, warning that Americans should not live in fear of masked agents and military deployments ordered by a president with no legal authority. This is not just a loss in Chicago, it sets a warning shot nationwide. Even this court is drawing a line. And for Trump, on Christmas week, that line could not be clearer. Thanks so much for watching. Please click that like button and subscribe to Occupy Democrats so that you can stay informed and help us stop Donald Trump.